Last chance to back out. You want to just go get breakfast?
I think we should just go get breakfast. Green light.
Uh-oh.
Get those words!
Well, good morning, everybody. Did you do a little dancing? Because we're doing a little dancing in the studios here. Hello, everybody. My name is John Polnik. I am the host of Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Rad ForSale, Hemmings Auctions. I'm forgetting one of them, P-Car Market, or one of the other ones. I don't know. There's a million of them. And then we got Michael Deeb over there. He's my co-host, and he's coming in from San Francisco. There he is. What's happening, Michael Deeb?
Good morning, JP. I'm ready. I mean, we procrastinated almost an entire half an hour, so let's do this.
We got a late start. We always say we do this Monday through Friday during the 9 o'clock hour, specifically because we want to start at 9, but we never, ever do.
Ever.
So for those people who are waiting around going, where are the nerds? Sorry about that. We're slackers as well. We could be the Bid Slackers. Maybe we should change the name of the show.
Bid slackers would actually fly, that's for sure.
That is accurate. How are we doing today? So, here's the thing. I got to explain what we do on the show. What is this? What is the Bid Nerds? What are we talking about? So what we do is we pick
Why am I here?
Why are you here? Really, that is a good question. Why are you here? There's a lot. You could be watching a million other things on YouTube, but instead you're hanging out with us. What's wrong with you? I can't answer that question, but I can make predictions to what we think cars will sell for on Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids, and that's what we do. We nerd out about the most interesting cars we think of the day. We pick a bunch of those cars, we show the ads, we go over why those cars are interesting, and then we go ahead and make our predictions to what we think they will sell for when the hammer hits the sound block later today. Every car that we discuss today will sell today, or at least their auction will end today. Sometimes they don't sell. They fail to meet reserves and that sort of thing. But we always start the show before we get to today's cars. We talk about our predictions from yesterday because we check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. I shouldn't say that because I'm not a hip-hop artist. That's just embarrassing. Just embarrassing. Totally embarrassing, despite the hat. So there it is. Let's talk about yesterday's cars real quick, Michael Deeb. Let's go over. We keep track of our predictions and to see which one of us is better at this. And for the record, neither one of us is any good at it at all.
That hasn't been true lately. JP, you picked up yesterday right where you left off last week, which was wiping your shoes on my backside. Our first car of the day, I think, was on Cars and Bids, didn't we? It wasn't our star car, the 2002 Porsche 996 twin turbo in midnight blue.
Yes.
With what I would affectionately refer to as a sand dollar interior, kind of a light gray. But it was like the full interior was light gray. I might be able to pass off on just like the seats and the carpets if like the doors and the dash and the steering wheel were black, but that was not the case here. When they do a light colored monochromatic interior, it always feels like you're in the belly of a whale or something, like from an old cartoon when we were kids. By all accounts, this was a really nice car though. It was very clean. It had fair miles at like 57,000 miles on it or something like that. I don't remember where this car was, JP. As I get older by the minute, my memory is going. But anyway, 996 turbos have finally moved off the stops. I mean, you used to be able to pick up a car like this for like $25,000. Now they're worth twice as much, and in some cases more. Is that fair to say, JP? I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, I'm going to say heck no. No, I mean, turbos definitely dropped down in price for a long time, but even in the market crash of '08, they were never that cheap. I mean, that was a fairly contemporary car back then, but they were you could get a nice one in the 30s.
In the 30s?
Okay. I have to agree with you on the interior, though. I mean, it is the most egregious error that Porsche has made in the decades. I mean, this idea that they are going to make these interiors all one color. There were no 996s, as you described, with a black dash, black door cards, and colored everything else. If your car was not black, it was all beige or all gray or all red or all some awful color. There
at
wasn't
least
one
during
that
that
was
era.
Yeah.
Right. And it's terrible. I mean, I agree with you. I just don't like it at all. What winds up happening too with those lighter dashes, you get a reflection of the dash off the windshield in the sunlight. If the sun is at the correct angle, it could actually make it dangerous to drive through that glass. So
modern Porsches are not allowed to do that anymore because of that problem. And at least something finally Porsche, made Porsche do something right when it comes to design, which usually they get designed correct. But boy, the interiors, they kept doing it all through the 997. They kept doing it through the 991s, and now obviously they can't do it in the 992s because they're not allowed. Thank gosh. At least I guess there you go. An argument for government intervention. This car is ruined by this interior. This is a wonderful, beautiful car until you get inside, and that's what you're going to be looking at most of the time. Yeah. And where did this car land?
So JP, I guessed 58,000. I was high on this car because of the color and the condition. You were less so, 49,000, stating the interior was a deal breaker. Like values, it still had almost 60,000 miles on it. I don't know. So anyway, the car sold on Cars and Bids for $52,750. So I think you also stated that it would be handicapped by the site. Yeah. And so your guess was better than mine. The car landed in between us, but you were closer. So you got the star car yesterday, which was interesting. Jumping over to Bring a Trailer, we looked at one of our favorite cars, the Volkswagen Thing, 1974 Volkswagen Thing, that upon closer inspection was in pretty decent shape. I was high on it, especially being on Bring a Trailer. So I said 23. You were a little more conservative at 21, and you were right there because the car sold on Bring a Trailer for $20,000. You were $1,000 off a Yahtzee even. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that car would have gone for more had it not been for really poor repaint. I mean, this is a great 10-footer. One probably looks like a great driver, which is fine for a thing because you're going to take
what
it
I was saying yesterday.
And but if it were a clean original paint one, I'm waiting for one like this that's original. You gotta hand it to them. They found the decal that matches the original decal too.
The Thing.
Yeah, an original one that looks like this up close and still looks this good. I'm thinking is probably going to bring in the 30s at this point.
Oh, easily.
I think they're heading that direction.
Yeah, repainted ones that are nice are bringing in the high 20s to low 30s. So an original one, somebody would absolutely pay a premium for. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an original one with original everything else. Touch 40 grand. So we'll see. One of them is coming.
Our friend Michael Anderson over at Godden Porsche had one. His sister had one that was like had 13,000 miles on it, and they sold it. Gosh, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and I think they sold it for 20 grand, which was like crazy money for a thing back then. But now you got to think that car might be a $50,000 car in that kind of original condition. Who knows? So much fun. Most fun car you could possibly own, amazingly enough. All right.
RJP, our Buick Grand National, not a GNX, but a Grand National, was still a muscle car from the 80s, which is just a weird thing to say because almost everything GM made looked like this car. But Grand Nationals and GNXs, I think, only came in black. I forgot to say that yesterday. For whatever it's worth, it's a 3.8-liter V6 that has a turbocharger that makes about 250 horsepower and 350 pound-foot of torque. So it's fast. The GNX, though, is seriously like supercar quick. But the rest of this car screams Oldsmo Buick, and they're just not built to a very good standard. Yet they still bring weirdly good money. So I said $42,000. You said $39,000, just sort of tacking your bid under mine, and certainly guessing that it wasn't going to break $40,000. And you were correct again for the day. $37,000 this car sold for on BAT. So congratulations to the seller. You finally got that thing out of your garage.
Does this car sell for more on something like Hemmings that skews to a much older demographic? I mean, is there anyone on BAT that wants this car?
Listen, this car has a profile on, Gran Turismo and Forza. I mean, it is still considered a highlight in the enthusiast market. I don't know.
Is it the fastest ugly car ever, or is it the ugliest fast car ever?
Right.
This is a hideous pile of. Ugh.
That brings us back to is the zebra white with black stripes or black with white stripes argument, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. That's interesting about the Gran Turismo thing. I didn't know that. All right.
It's on there.
All right, kids want it then. All right, what else we got?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. So on BAT, we found a really interesting lot. This was a 2004 996 generation Porsche 911 Targa with like 2,000 miles on it, JP. Somebody bought this car and forgot to drive it.
They
maybe
did.
Maybe the guy had amnesia or something. I don't know.
Right?
I thought this car was going to bring more money. I said 55, and you thought this car was going to bring even more money. And for once, you got it wrong and let me have one, which was very nice of you. Don't make sure to sign your sheet for charity hours. This car sold for $53,750. By all accounts, that's kind of the right price. Maybe at an RM auctions or something in a room full of old billionaires drinking white wine, somebody would pay a little more money for this thing because of the low miles, but not because of the model. That is 53,750 is really all the money for that model. Would you agree with that sentiment, John?
I don't. I think this car is worth a lot more. I think a third or more of the audience, maybe even half the potential audience for this car, skipped right over it because of how poor the ad was done. This was an awful dealership somewhere that just did not understand how to represent a car like this. I mean, the amazing low miles on this car should have brought it at least. I still think at least $10,000 more for this car had it been represented correctly. And I don't know if these wheels came with this car, if those were the original wheels. I thought those only came on the earlier 996s. If they were swapped out at some point, you probably could still get them back when these cars were available. I would certainly put the MY02s on here, and it would just like instantly transform this car into a much... I mean, that's the thing about the Mark II 996s. They do look decidedly different from, number of angles, particularly the front, because they changed the fried egg to that more sharp edge thing. And some of the bumper, so these wheels make it look like an older one. The very first picture, the picture that BAT chose to be the header picture, was like this kind of like straight on photo. It was like one of these photos where the front wheel was turned out, and it was just like the worst picture. It made you think, oh wait, is this the Mark? I mean, you just skip right over it. There's 50 other cars for sale that day, and I just think that a lot of the people that would have been like, oh my god, a 2,000 mile 996.2 Targa, that's actually something that's pretty special. Silver on black with some better wheels. This car is... I just don't think whoever buys this car is going to drive it. It's going to go into the garage somewhere and sit for another 20 years or something, which is a shame. But I do think it would have brought a lot more money had the selling dealer any clue how to represent the car, and they obviously didn't. Left money on the table, in my opinion.
And remind me again, JP, these 996s, doesn't that rear window pop up?
It does, like a hatchback, and there are no pictures of that.
Where's the photo of that unique feature?
I suspect that the dealership representing this car didn't know that was. I bet they didn't even know it did that.
I would agree with you. There's not a single photo of that, is there?
Yeah, the dealers that own this car didn't have any idea what the hell they had.
All right, so maybe 53 isn't all the money, and this dealer left money on the table.
Ignorance is expensive, you guys.
Ooh,
call the bid nerds and get some bad advice. We'll help you out.
That should be one of our T-shirts. Ignorance is expensive. Call the bid nerds.
Oh, man, this last lot. Oh, my gosh. This is actually my favorite car of the day.
Katsuni, write it down. And, boy, you were right on this. This thing almost hit your 30 grand, JP. We're talking about the 1998 Toyota Tacoma 4x4 on Bring a Trailer in black, sort of a sand-colored interior. Manual transmission, and what was it, JP? Like 16,000 original miles.
Yeah,
I mean,
lower than that. It was crazy low.
Fantastic condition. Surprisingly, 3 owners, and somebody. I mean, geez, for $27,000, I think that's still a tremendous value for what is a car that'll last you 400,000 miles, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would rather have this than a brand new Toyota truck. Any Toyota truck. I don't care. And the great thing about, Toyota trucks are like GT3s, man. You buy one, you could drive it off the lot and then drive it for 2 or 3 years and sell it for more money. Toyota trucks are just where it's at. And this one, this represents probably the best era of Toyota truck, in my opinion. It was kind of the last of the minimalist design, still had a manual transmission, still had the 4-cylinder, basically the venerable, 2.7, the 22 RE or whatever it is. I think that maybe this one is something else, RE, but this is just a nuclear Holocaust-proof vehicle. Terrorists love them all over the world. The only thing that can take one of these out is maybe a cruise missile, and even then, they'll just pick up the pieces and make a new truck out of what's. They're like the T2 Terminator. It gets blown apart. You think it's dead, and then it waits, and then all of a sudden, all the parts just start trickling back towards one another, and they just make another truck out of it. They just like whatever.
So I said 22. You bet the over at 24, thinking that it might actually push to 30. And at 27,250, well sold, well bought, and congratulations. JP, you got 4 to my 1. I'm off to a bad start. So prepare to have your ass handed to you today, son.
Bid nerds, anything can happen with the predictions, man. The numbers swing wildly. You think we're bad at it? You think Michael Deeb's bad at it? Let's see how you are at it. Put your predictions on the cars. I'm gonna we list all the cars that we talk about, the most interesting cars of the day. We put a list of them in the description of the video below, as well as the links for you to go and look at those cars, so you can listen to our predictions. Go ahead and let's see how you do at this thing. Go into the comments and give us your predictions, and let's see if you can beat the nerds. Because I don't know, as lousy as we are at this, and as little as we know about anything, I'd be curious to see how someone out in the wild does it.
We had Bradley Branell on, and we blanked him, and I had a great day. I won most of those days, so I spent like 2 weeks talking smack to Bradley Branell. He came back on the show and kicked our ass, and then
all three of us, including getting a Yahtzee.
Oh yeah. So anyway, he's not invited to be on the show anymore.
The thing is about Bradley is he's a professional. He's Bradley Branell from Radwood.
He owns
Rad
his own auction site.
He's a professional and also a respected journalist. How can we expect to compete with a guy like that?
Yeah. We're neither journalists nor respected. So yeah, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, certainly not respected at all. All right, guys. Well, make sure you hit the subscribe, like, and notification button. We do the show live, so if you're watching live, that's awesome, and we appreciate that you're watching us live, and that's a lot of fun. But if you don't catch the show live, it kind of takes YouTube a while to populate our channel with this video, so you may not see it there unless you hit the notification button. You get the little thing in the thing that tells you
that's the cheat code.
Cheat code. Hit the notification button as well as subscribe, and give us some comments, and again, let us know what you think your predictions are compared to ours, and we'll see if you can beat the nerds. Let's get to today's cars, the most interesting cars of the day, and Cars and Bids Bring a Trailer, Rad ForSale, Hemmings Auction, P-Car Market, and whoever the heck else has an auction site. What do we got today? The big car today is kind of neat.
JP, we're going to start on Doug DeMiro's site for once, and we're looking at a Bella Macchina, the 1997 Ferrari 456 GT. So Ferrari basically makes 2 versions of the 12-cylinder in the modern era. So one is kind of a GT that has some semblance of a back seat, which is always a joke. It's very 911-esque in that only children under the age of 9 or amputees could fit their legs back there. But in essence, in Europe, it creates like an insurance quotient that makes the cars slightly more affordable to run. They're nice, and they're usually a little more softer edge. It's the type of car you could throw your luggage in the back and take your honey to the coast for the weekend, but still has a 12-cylinder motor. And then Ferrari always makes a 12-cylinder that's just a 2-seater that's a little bit more extreme. So in this case, this is the GT, and it's a 4-seat Ferrari. It's a 5.5-liter front-engine V12. What makes this 97 cool is that most of the 456 are GTAs with a automatic transmission, a proper torque converter, slushy, just awful gearbox. But this car has a gated 6-speed manual driving that 5.5-liter 12-cylinder rear engine that makes 436 horsepower and, more importantly, JP, 406 pound-foot of torque. Despite this car being rather heavy, reports of this car are anywhere from 3,700 to 3,900 pounds. I'd say that the manual is probably on the lower end side, but that's still a heavy car when most Ferraris are considered light and athletic. Yet 406 pound-foot of torque is enough to get that thing going and down the road. This is still perilously close to a 200-mile-an-hour sports car. And values of these have languished, mostly because a lot of them are automatic, and nobody really wants them in the secondary market. So when you see a manual come up, when you see one that's been looked after and cared for by a proper Ferrari owner that kind of is spare no expense to keep his car running and on the road, it becomes an occasion, and people will bid these things up. And I think that's what's happening here, despite the handicap of being.
Hey guys, looks like we're having some technical issues. Looks like we're losing Michael Deeb, and we've lost our ability to see the screen. That's why I haven't shown you the 458, which is a beautiful car. Stand by for some technical work here. We're going to show you a video of a really cool Targa. We'll be back in just a second.
Get the burn!
Well, you know, we're going to keep trying here. We're waiting for Michael Deeb to hop back into the group. We're also trying to get our screen back on, and we'll bring that happen. You know, you guys, if you're watching shows like this, do you watch Doug DeMuro's Market Update? Do you watch PCAR Market Live? There's a few other shows that talk about you know, the auction sites and that sort of thing. And I want to get you guys' opinions on what we do here. And, you know, should we do some stuff more like what they're doing? We'd love to hear suggestions from the audience and what you guys think of the show. Bear with me, guys. I am trying to get everything back up and also fill some time. Wish I had more. You know what? I'm going to stand by again. I'm going to show you a video of our old GT3 as we try to get this show back on the road. Stand by, everybody. All right, guys, this is my 2003 Porsche 996 C2, kind of a GT3 clone. This is definitely not a GT3. One thing you might notice in the picture is that the tachometer goes up to 8,000 RPMs. Do not do that in this car. This is not a GT3, so if you redline it at 8,000 RPMs, you're going to have some problems. But other than that, this car is magnificent. So we're going to start it up and take it for a little spin down a fun road. This car is already warmed up, so we don't have to worry about any of that. And here we go. right, guys. Well, that was just a little bit of a fun, twisty road here in Las Vegas. and we're gonna go back the other way. This car is not a GT3, but man, for a third of the money, it is all the fun. It's not a Metzger engine; it's an M96 engine. This one's had the IMS upgraded, which means you can pretty much drive with confidence that it's going to be solid. It does have a new clutch. This car just feels tight. It feels good. It has Bilstein suspension with H&R lowered springs. I don't know why I'm selling this car. I don't understand why the hell I would get rid of it. This thing really is better than my 997.2. And it's funny how similar they are, because this is a .2 996 with a 3.6 Hey,
liter
look
engine.
who's back, everybody. Hey, everybody, thanks for hanging out for that technical issue there. We had a bunch of stuff all happening at once there, but it looks like we are back in the game. We were talking about an amazing Ferrari 456. Was that right?
Yeah, 456.
I want to say
Yeah.
458, but it was a 456. Oh, gosh, we're still having some technical issues over here, but that's okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, good.
Let's go ahead and continue talking about the 456 while I try to bring the image back up.
Okay, so our car is offered out of Chicago, Illinois. It has 50,000 miles on it. It is Le Mans Blue Metallic, which is kind of a pretty midnight blue metallic. And it has the Koyo interior, which I wouldn't call it orange, but it's kind of a cognac colored interior. But the thing that makes this car so special, JP, is the fact that it's got the 6-speed manual. Front engine, rear wheel drive, 430 horsepower, 400 pound-foot of torque, and a 6-speed manual. There's just no way you're going to drive this car and not have a good time in it. And so that being said, despite the fact that it's on Cars and Bids, it's showing a little bit of life. These cars have been soft for a long time. And again, that's because I think a larger number of them came equipped with the automatic transmission. But this one having the stick is going to be a bright spot. And so right now, JP, with about 2 hours to go, it's sitting at $61,000 on 27 bids, and has even gotten a few bids overnight. It was at 59,000 last night. So interesting to see where this one might land. Any final thoughts before I give you my guessy poo?
I'd love to talk about this car a little bit, but I've been working on the technical stuff here for the last 5 minutes. So other than I just love this car, and I used to hate them until we really started doing this show. I really hadn't given them a second look, but now I am just all over this, and I'm also kind of very curious to compare to the next car, and we'll get to that in just a second. But this front engine, this mid-90s design sensibility, I used to just think was straight up ugly, but now I just, compared to the newer ones that are so whiz-bang and GT wings and all kinds of air vents and stuff like that, the simplicity of this design is really jumping out at me. And I even love the color combination, this weird kind of, what color blue is this? A
Le Mans Blue Metallic and Koyo interior, which is, again, that sort of, I call it cognac color.
That for those of you out there, Michael Deeb is an Italian car expert, so he knows how to speak Italian, and what he just said is Italian for Barney the dinosaur. This color is a weird-ass color, but wow, that's good looking.
If you put a sandwich under the hood of this thing and then go on the professor run, when you get to your destination, your panini's done. That's
nice. Yeah, very good. All right, so where's it going to land? What do we got?
So JP, the poor man's 550 Maranello is this could be a little renaissance, and I think this car is going to do well. I don't think it's going to break 60,000 on Cars and Bids. So I'll park my guess at $69,000 and send it over to you, and apologize again for the technical difficulties. F the internet.
Where is this car sitting at now?
For blah, 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 blah. I just had it. $61,000, 2 hours to go, 27 bids. It even made a couple $1,000s overnight.
And you think it's going to get up to 69?
Yeah, and I think if this car were on Bring a Trailer, it might even bring more. But I'm also still betting against cars and bids a little bit.
Yeah, I obviously I'm pretty soft on cars and bids generally. I think that this car would certainly make more money on the BATs, but I am going to give it a slight over. I'm going to go 70. We have
Okay.
seen some late rallies on really cool cars lately on cars and bids, and this car definitely qualifies as really cool. Terrible photography again. This is Doug DeMiro's lack of aesthetic, give a shitness, for lack of a better way to put it, oozing into his platform, which leaves money on the table. Everybody knows that on cars and bids, nobody really cares about the photography or the aesthetics of anything, because neither does Doug DeMiro. He's the guy that will show up to the ball in a T-shirt that says "I'm with stupid," and it shows on his platform. Man, you got to get rid of that.
As you're saying that, JP, I'm looking at a photo it's one of the thumbs on it's like one of the 6 photos that's on the main page, and it's the rear end of the Ferrari, and in the background over the shoulder of the Ferrari are 6 green dumpsters, and I'm sure one of them's on fire because the photographer was snapping it at that time. So yeah, that's a real bummer, a real letdown. But how about the 456 as a future collectible? I mean, this thing's probably sitting on like 17-inch wheels. Imagine, a set of 18s with a little bit lower spec tire. And as we're watching Ferrari 550s now regularly get into that $130,000, $150,000 range, this car at $60,000, $70,000, your guess, even 75, becomes a really good value because it's 80% of the car for 50% of the money. I should also mention this car had a timing belt done just like 2 years ago. So you could probably drive this car for a couple of years before it needs a major service. So
I mean, look at this car compared to like a 355 of the era with like an F1, and those are going for $100,000 almost. Why would you rather have that when you could have this with a stick? I mean, that's absurd.
You're right.
Any Ferrari with a stick is better than any F1 transmission ever. So
and a 355 with a stick is now $130,000 to $150,000 car in its own right, unless it's convertible, which is another weird thing. But anyways, we could break down Ferraris for days. But I like your idea, JP. Let's jump over to Bring a Trailer and juxtapose this car against something, it's a little bit older, but it's basically this platform remained available for a long time. And that's the 1986 and a half Porsche 928S, also with a 5-speed manual transmission, offered to us out of Mooresville, North Carolina. A few more miles on the clock, 97,000 miles. But what we're really trying to do here is compare 2 GT cars from sports car brands that make quicker and more athletic cars. This is sort of your everyday Porsche. Not that a 911 couldn't be used every day, but a 911 is certainly a car with some compromises as far as having to climb down real low into the seat, not having a lot of storage room. This is a car, again, if you live in the big city, you could take your honey in 2 overnight bags, throw them in the back of this thing and go to the coast or the lake or the river or wherever you go to spend your weekends to get out of the thing. This is the car that'll get you there and back in style and be great on a back road. So our 928 has a 5-liter V8. This particular 86 and a half is equipped with what was new at the time, the 32 valve head, and makes 288 horsepower. It also has a limited slip differential, and again, a 5-speed manual transmission. And these cars were really fun. They felt more powerful than the numbers would indicate. There is an accident on the Carfax of this, but by all accounts, it's been taken care of. And JP, what do you think of the D90s from a later 928 GT on this S? I think I actually like the look. I think that those wheels play on this car. I think they look very at home on this particular model. The following year, this car was followed up by the S4, and then later we got the GT, and then eventually the GTS. But this car really jumped from the low 200s close to 300 horsepower, and I think these are good performance values. That being said, our car is sitting at $18,000 with about 2.5 hours to go out of North Carolina. So, JP, do you think this is a favorable alternative to the expense of a Ferrari, despite these cars also being sort of notoriously finicky and not exactly inexpensive maintenance costs to run, if you're going to keep this car for a few years and actually drive it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, the price of admission is going to be way lower on this car, and as much as the maintenance costs are going to be high relative to most cars in general, it's still going to be decidedly less than anything with an F badge on it.
Right.
I mean, and you can find people to work on this almost anywhere, whereas the Ferrari, you're going to be really limited to a small handful of technicians and shops that can do it properly.
Who charge exorbitant fees,
Yeah, and it looks like this one has had an engine out service, which looks like that could save you a heck of a lot of money in the long run. Because I think once this car has a bunch of the major stuff sorted out, you should be good to go for quite a while. Unlike the Ferrari, where every 3,000 or 5,000 miles you got to do some crazy service for it.
Yeah.
But I'd still, I'd still rather own the Ferrari and drive the Ferrari. But it really comes down to the bank account. And if you had only one car, you could only have one car. This would be the one you'd have to choose because it's a car that you could actually rely on. Whereas that 456, as beautiful as it is, and as wonderful as it would be to drive, certainly not something that I would put the reliable word next to it, especially in any kind of long term. So yeah, the 928 is just classic and beautiful as in its own right, and I really love the way they drive. Having driven that one that you bought for God and Porsche of Las Vegas,
was that a nice car?
It just reminded me how good they can be. Because everyone I had driven in the last 20 years were ratted out pieces of crap or really nice automatics. So it had been a long time since I had driven a 928 with a proper 5-speed with the dog leg and all that kind of fun stuff. And it was just like, oh my God, this car really is great. So yeah, ever since then, I've been kind of wanting one of these.
Max from Max Monahan from, oh my God.
Oh, did we lose Michael Deeb again? We're having all kinds of technical issues this morning. He's back. He's back.
Okay, good. Oh, just a lag there. Anyways, I sold that car to a guy in the Utah area, and then he drove it for a couple of years and gave it to Max Monahan, and Max Monahan sold that car. So Max and I both sold that one that you drove, that black 81 that was in like spectacular condition from the Midwest. That car had been basically a one-owner car its whole life until a guy bought it off his neighbor and then did a service and sold it to us at Godden. But that was like a one-owner car almost its entire life. So really neat car.
Well, where's this one going to land?
Yeah, thank you. Let's move on here. I think this car has a little life left in it. So again, John, out of Mooresville, North Carolina, this is an 86 928S, but it does have the 32 valve head. So this is, again, like a 290 horsepower car. 97,000 miles on the odometer, 2 hours to go, sitting at $17,928. And I predict this car will sell for $21,000.
How many miles does it have on it again? One more time.
97,000.
97 with an engine out I mean, look, this thing has, indications of wear. I mean, the dashboard isn't all cracked up, but it has teeny little cracks here and there that are starting. So there's almost no way to stop that once it starts. So that's a little, and there's nicks and scratches and stuff like that all over this thing. It's black, which is that much harder to keep clean and to cover up those scratches. But I just don't care. This car is so cool, and I think that those little imperfections are going to make this car something that you just wouldn't feel any guilt about driving around. So I absolutely love this thing and would love to own it. Deeb, what did you say? What was your number? Oh boy, did we lose Deeb once again. Gosh, guys, this is just a technical dumpster fire this morning. I'm going to go ahead and say 25. Is that what he said? No, he said like 21. I think this thing has a long way to go. I'm going to say $25,000 and move on to the next car. Michael Deeb will come back in here hopefully very quickly. One of the other cars that we have here, we're going to talk about this 2003 Nissan 350Z. Michael Deeb,
can you hear me?
All right. Yeah.
Well, JP, forgive me for zoning out there again. What was your bid on the 928? I didn't actually hear it.
25,000. I think it's going to rally.
Oh, you're going big with the Carfax and everything. All right, cool, man.
Yeah.
All right,
I mean, the engine's come out, man. The thing is ready to roll.
Okay, JP. And then I heard you want to go to the Nissan now. The
Yeah, let's go to
2003.
the Datsun. It's a one-owner
Yeah.
Datsun with 1,700 miles.
Right.
How is this going to
Isn't it?
compare to that Target that we talked about yesterday?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, look, these cars weren't very expensive when they were brand new, and I think that's we got to start there. Like this thing was only $35,000 when it was new, where our Porsche was like $85,000. That being said, though, this car is still going to bring over 50% of its original value. Because it's basically a brand new car. Look, the market is flooded with these things, but this one out of Sewell, New Jersey, with 1,700 miles, will certainly pique the interest of collectors and perhaps enthusiasts alike. Even if this thing brings, which my guess is going to be, close to 50% of its original value, that's still a fair value for what is essentially a brand new car. And this one looks to be in spectacular condition. Now, for me, JP, just like we were banging on the Porsche from yesterday, the Turbo, I don't like this gray interior, and that to me is a deal breaker. If this were an all black interior, I think this car would have more value. The other thing that we should notice is there are several different trim packages for this, and this one is a touring, which makes it a comfortable sports car. And you and I, we would want ours a little more aggressive, probably. I would love to have firmer suspension, and I'd love to have the Brembo brakes that were available on other models of the 350Z. So the Touring also doesn't do it for me. So it's hard to predict where this one will come in. I would say that if it were a more aggressive version in a different colorway, you could be looking at close to $20,000 for this car, but I don't think this one's going to bring it. It still has 4.5 hours to go. It is a one-owner car, and it's sitting at close to $11,000, John. So what do you think? Would you be interested in this car, being that it's like brand new, or was it like, who cares?
I mean, look, when we talk about rad era cars like 80s and 90s cars, there are certain design cues from that era that are now kitschy and nostalgic. And unfortunately, every era has that. But the early aughts certainly has its design cues that are, common for their era, and they're not kitschy and ironic and fun yet. And this car really suffers from that. This car looks like a car from 2001 or 2003 or whenever the heck it was made. And I think that will eventually be nostalgic, but it's just not yet. And on top of that, if you've ever driven one of these, these cars were heralded as an inexpensive way to get 300 naturally aspirated horsepower, and when you drive one, it just doesn't feel like it has 300 horsepower. I just don't believe it. Yeah, they just weigh so. Like I remember when these cars were brand new, I had a regular Z3 3-liter. And I want to say that was like a 2005 or something. And so that car only had 240 horsepower, not even that, maybe 260 or something. At least 40 or 50 horsepower fewer than this Z car. And the BMW Z was way faster and more nimble and handled better, and it felt sprightly and light like you would expect this car to, and it just wasn't. It's such I don't understand, because previous Zs were the exact opposite. Every iteration of the Z car has always been just a fantastic value for sports cars, and this one just for some reason failed miserably. I don't know why.
This car was surprisingly nimble for when you consider how heavy it was, but it just never fulfilled the promise of being like a world-class competitive sports car. It's a sports car, don't get me wrong, and they are fun to drive. And if you judge them against themselves, they have some merit to them, especially if there's a decent value because they're not expensive. But when you start comparing them to anything else, then they live in the shadows. And so they don't hold their value very well. And this one could be a bright spot, but look at it. 4 hours to go. It's sitting at $10,000. I had thought overnight that this car might reach 17, and I'm not sure it's going to reach 15. So, JP, I'm going to park my bet at 13. I'm going to go $14,000.
Yeah, I'll go on the over on that one. I'll take your bid at 15 and say it could climb to 17. I mean, it still does have super low miles. These were very popular cars, and they are getting to a point where they're almost nostalgic. Because I mean, let's face it, 2003. If you were young back then, and couldn't afford one, you might be getting into an era, time in your life where you might be able to.
But
Yeah.
but JP, let me remind you, you and I covered Pete Brock's 370Z, anniversary edition,
Yeah.
which was like the final iteration of that car because the new Z is coming.
Yeah, good point.
That they're the same car. They've
Yeah.
been making this car for 2 decades. I mean,
Yeah.
they talk about like milking a joke. I thought I was bad at that. Holy hell!
We always talk about how it's a shame that some of these low mile collector cars are going to get put in a garage and not driven, and that's just like awful. But this car, I kind of feel like, yeah, you know what, put this in a collection and don't drive it. There's other cars you could drive that are going to be more fun. So buy this for your collection and put it up as a museum piece. Fix those couple of door dings, and you've got something that'll look really great on display in 20 years. Hey, look at this super low mile 350Z, and drive all the other cars that are way better. I mean, you could get a used I'll go back to the BMW Z car, Z4. You get a 03 Z4 3-liter that's going to be way more fun, and you probably get it for $5,000. I mean, they're worthless, and just have a good time. Anyways, there you go. All right.
Or you could go over to Cars and Bid and take a look at this Audi S4 sedan.
Oh, look
silver
at that, bringing it
full black
together.
interior. Our car is offered out of Beaverton, Oregon, and has 86,800 miles. I will say that it bums me out that this car is an automatic and not a stick, but I just thought it'd be a cool car to look at because, JP, when this car came out, man, I really wanted one. I love Audis. And I thought this was everything, that they made an S4 for the United States market. You could have gotten it with a 6-speed manual. I love the Avis wheels, twin turbo V6. Everybody knew that it was an ECU flash away from easily over 300 horsepower, easily over 300 pound-foot of torque. And now you're talking about a car that in 2001 with those kind of performance specs would be a really quick car. The stock is still 250, 260, and that stuff works. These are fun to drive, and this car is special because it's just unmodified. Most of these, the second owners, sometimes even the first owners, were young kids, and mods ensued. Suspension and exhaust, and aftermarket turbos and tinted windows and big stereos. Ruined most S4s that are out in the marketplace. But this is a bright spot that has under 100,000 miles and is essentially unmolested, as you and I like to say from time to time. Timing belt was done in 2016. I'm not sure how long they last on this. I saw no record of the turbochargers being changed on this car or updated, and that has been a weak point on this 2.7-liter motor in every application that this motor was used with Audi. The turbos do eventually go bad, so I would think that you might consider that if they have never truly been done on this car, that they might come up in the near term, because it's not if they go bad, it's when they go bad. Other than that, this is a great, clean car, and I really thought it might bring a little more money. Maybe if it was a stick, it would. But with 2 hours to go, JP, we're looking at $9,300 on 19 bids, and it's a no reserve auction. So somebody will take this car home. But look, man, if you need a commuter car, you could do a lot worse than this for $10,000. Like, look at that. How fun would that be? I know it's not your favorite car, but that's still kind of a fun value. It could absolutely be a maintenance nightmare. I bought a similar era S6 wagon for Esther to carry the dogs around in, and man, my mechanic loved that car and loved us. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, if you have a job and you're relying on this car to get you there regularly, you're gonna lose your job, man. I mean, you gotta better make sure you have your Uber account up to date, because you're gonna need to take that to the unemployment office. This thing, I hate these cars, probably mostly because I remember drivers of these kind of crapping all over me when I was driving my C4S 996 at the time. When I had a fairly contemporary one, and these guys would blow by me on the mountain pass roads on the straightaways, and I'd be like, I gotta catch them in the damn corners. And then these do really well in the corners too. So it's like, God dang it. The only way I could get over the mountain pass faster than one of these is relying on the fact that their car will probably break before we get to wherever we're going. These just are maintenance nightmares, and those timing chains are notorious for failing, which is catastrophic, and it's not a good thing. But yeah, I do think they're pretty. I did actually have one for a short amount of time, and it broke all the time, so I got rid of it. Where's this car going to land?
JP, I think this car is going to bring $12,000.
Okay, and where's it sitting at now?
$9,300 and change or something.
Yeah, I'll say 10 because this is not a car that's going to get a late rally. Cars and Bids usually doesn't get late rallies unless it's something that's really, really good.
You're
and this
crazy,
ain't it.
man. It's a unicorn. Look at it. It looks brand new. It's
With an
beautiful
auto,
condition.
tragic. Wah, wah. If it were a manual, different story. All right. Stupid Audis. What
Terrible
else we got?
gearbox.
Yeah.
All right, JP. Our final car is probably the one you and I like the most. And you and I just got through crapping over a monochromatic light interior. But feast your eyes, John, on this 37,000 mile 2009 Porsche Cayenne GTS. This is a no reserve auction out of LA, Los Angeles, California. They call that what I would affectionately refer to as root beer metallic is technically called macadamia metallic. And of course, that is the familiar, all too familiar, sand beige leather and Alcantara upholstery. The problem that you and I have is that the steering wheel and the top of the dash are also sand beige, and that's a bummer. Those gorgeous looking 21-inch wheels are called the Cayenne Sport Plus rims, and they are my favorite wheels on this car. I know there's another 21-inch that came on like the Turbo and Turbo S, but I like these wheels a lot. I think the multi-spoke wheel is just really pretty, and it makes what is otherwise a heavy-looking car somehow look light because you can see through the wheel. I really love them. Red brake calipers also sort of finish this thing off. But what we're talking about here is a Cayenne GTS with 37,000 miles. And despite the fact that these were available with a 6-speed manual, and those were bringing crazy money, this one being an automatic and having such low miles is going to make it attractive. And I think this car is going to bring some pretty decent money. It's got 400 horsepower and 370 pound-foot of torque from the 4.8-liter V8. And that Tiptronic is still fun to drive. These are great cars, and when you put them in sport mode, they come alive. They will shock you how well they handle, especially when they're sitting on 21s like this car is. So, John, is the automatic and the sand beige interior a complete deal breaker, or is this car going to sell for $30,000? It's sitting at 20 grand right now with 4 hours to go.
You know, that's a good question. I think that's why we chose to discuss this one, because the Cayennes are such a weird car in the SUV world. I mean, GTS Cayennes, I think, are especially in the 957s like this one, generation, the .2 first gens, I think are just the best looking Cayennes with the trim around the bottom and the ground effects and the wings and all that kind of stuff. I think they look really, really
big
sharp.
Openings in the front. They have this massive grills over the standard Cayennes. That's what, to me, that grill looks like a sports car.
Well,
it's
and
amazing.
the Turbo has that same nose too, but the Turbo doesn't have the rockers on the side, and it doesn't have the same wing. So this has it even more sporty. And then, of course, the sports seats that are just fantastic with the Alcantara in the middle. It's amazing how country club boring. I didn't realize they made them in this color. I do, lots of them have this color interior, this beige interior, but that exterior color, wow, what a surprise. I've never seen that on a GTS.
Macadamia metallic, baby. It's where it's at.
I mean, it looks like a cup of coffee that goes,
it does.
200 miles an hour. So I'll be very curious to see where this car lands, given how much regular, not standard Cayennes, but Cayennes without manuals seem to also be appreciating. And this one also doesn't have big wheels and knobby tires and a roof rack. We've seen those kind of bringing just ridiculous numbers. The thing about this Cayenne, and if you're considering one of these and you've heard all the you've heard everybody kind of talking about how great they are and how well they handle. The rumors are true. These do belay their weight. They are incredible to drive. But I will say PDDC is an option that you can get. It makes all the difference in the world. This car will handle amazingly and will surprise the hell out of you what you can do with it. Get one that has PDDC and you're going to be like, what's going on here? This has like anti-gravity button or something. It's magical. It's just leaps and bounds, orders of magnitude better than the mechanical suspension. So I don't know. This thing, this is a great car. I'm excited about it. They are kind of maintenance heavy, so be ready for some fairly big maintenance bills. But they are ultimately pretty darn reliable. Like, you're not going to have major failures. You're just going to have expensive failures, like the air ride system or the fuel pump and stuff like that are expensive, but it's not like it's going to be like you need a new engine. It's not that kind of stuff. So where's this thing going to land, Michael? I don't know.
JP, one more question for you, because I'm learning quite a bit about the E1s talking to you. What's the difference in the multimedia interface between an '09 and a 10, which is the final year of the E1 platform? Are you giving anything up by
It's actually
taking an
it's a
'09?
very good question. It's the '09 is the update. The '08 is the first year of the .2 facelift. That did not, but the '08s are using the old infotainment, whereas the '09s are using the newer one. So '09 and 10, 9 and 10 are the same. Yeah, so the 9 and 10 works just fine. Cool. Whereas the '08, on the other hand, is a major pain in the butt. So
and listen, don't misunderstand my partner here. They're still crap, but they're better than the crappier ones that came before it, right?
Yeah,
it's not the greatest system in the world, but it's the best system you could get on any E1 platform Cayenne. So if you can hold out for a 9 or a 10, it's worth the price of admission.
Your Bluetooth your Bluetooth music interface on the '09 works great. The phone, I mean, even the brand new ones don't work very well. But compared to the '08 infotainment system, that has the Bluetooth phone thing, and it's just absolute crap. So I mean, don't buy one of these for the Bluetooth infotainment. That's just stupid.
No, but I'm just saying, if you had the choice between one that was the second gen versus the first gen, you'd want the updated version. It's certainly better.
I mean, that's I mean, other than that, it's the same vehicle. So I would, if choosing between an '08 and '09, all things being equal, okay, fine. The infotainment is the last thing that would be the last box to tick that say, okay, get the '08. But if you could get a better deal or lower mile or better condition on an '08, then who cares about the stupid infotainment thing? Just who cares? Who cares? Give me a break. All right. Get some headphones or something. Jeez. Okay, where's it going to land?
All right, JP, I'm going to really stick my neck out for this particular car. It's in Los Angeles, California. This thing was $86,000 when it was brand new, but it's got 37,000 miles on it, and it's just sitting there at $20,000, and I'm starting to get cold feet about my original guess, which I had put last night at $34,000. I know Porsches get a late flurry, but we are fighting the fact that this is an automatic. And an automatic 80,000 mile Cayenne GTS is a $21,000 car. So what's the premium for the miles? Because you're not paying a premium for the manual transmission. And while I put $34,000 last night, I don't think I'm not feeling that this car is going to break 30 grand anymore. I think the miles help, but I think that the color might be polarizing and the transmission is just hoo ho ho hum. So I'm going to say $29,000. And I don't know.
That's
a good value.
That would be strong for one of these. I differ. I mean, an 80,000 mile Cayenne, regular GTS Cayenne with a Tiptronic is not a $20,000 car. That's a $15,000 to maybe $18,000 car.
All right, so, I might be in trouble here.
But I mean, 37,000 miles is really low. Yes, we get late rallies on Porsches on BAT, but those are on air cools and 911s and stuff like that. On regular Cayennes with Tiptronics, I don't know. I think this car has a long way to go because of the low miles, and these are coming up, and people are really realizing that they're kind of the better platform than the later ones. I mean, I would way rather have this than a 2011 body style or up. The E2s. So in this colorway, not my first choice, but the tan interior
PTS,
is just
right?
Yeah. But the tan interior with this exterior color almost works. I mean, if you got your linen suit and you're going to go down to your yacht, this seems like the way to go. I really like it. 29 is a good bid, and I don't know how I beat that. I don't know if I go over or under. That's actually... This thing could go over 30 because of that low miles. I'm going to say it doesn't. I'm going to say 27 because it's a Tiptronic, and hope I'm wrong, because I would like to see big money for one of these, because I do have a turbo that's going to be for sale soon. So there you go, guys. That's Bidners. Boy, I
should just buy your car and get it over with.
You should, man. Look, guys, thanks for bearing with us on this episode of Bidners.
Apologies.
We did have some technical issues, but we muscled through it and we got through the show. Make sure you subscribe and like and hit the notification button. Go ahead and put in the comments that this show is a dumpster fire, and that we are terrible at what we do, and we will be the first to agree with you, but we do appreciate the interaction when you guys do so. Also, let us know what you think your bids are for the cars, and see if you can beat the nerds. Tomorrow we have a third nerd guest. Terry from Hemmings Auction is coming on. That's exciting. That's the first time someone from Hemmings Auction has joined us, so that'll be interesting to talk to them about their platform and how they're doing and how they see themselves as different from the other platforms and what their strategies are. We have a few opinions about that, and maybe we'll bring those up.
Maybe.
So, maybe we'll help them out, or maybe they'll, try to have us killed. Either way, we are excited and appreciate them coming on. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. During the 9 o'clock hour, we'll try to get an earlier start tomorrow, and we'll get this show on the road. Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day. On Cars and Bids, Bring a Trailer, P-Car Market, Hemmings Auction, Rad ForSale, and whoever else has an auction site.
Hit the bumper and end this thing.
Yeah, geez, Louise. Because what did we say is expensive? What was our big thing?
Ignorance.
There it is. Ignorance is expensive. Take that away from this episode.
Get those words! Get those nerds!